The time is now, what, 7:29? 7:30, we'll go with 7:30. And I'd like to call this May 23rd Board of Library Trustees meeting to order. I will start by reading the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Downers Grove Public Library sits on the unceded, traditional, and ancestral homelands of Native peoples. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the indigenous peoples who have been caretakers of the land throughout generations, past and present. We invite you to learn more about the genocide and forced displacement by non-Native settlers and the ongoing injustices against Native peoples. Caitlin, can you proceed with roll call?
Sure. Trustee Doherty? Here. Trustee Humphries?
Here.
Trustee Flutia?
Here.
President Kagani?
Here. All right. Welcome to our visitor. Thank you for your interest in the library. All right. Item number 4, approval of minutes. We'll be approving the April 27th, 2022 regular meeting minutes first. Do you have any questions or comments?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes.
And I have a second. Perfect. Can we get
Actually, now that we're back in person, we can actually do voice votes for non-money things.
Oh, perfect.
So
So
everybody
all those in favor
Mhm.
of approving? Perfect.
And you're technically, you should say, all those opposed,
Okay.
all those abstaining.
Okay. All those opposed? And abstentions. All right. 4B, April 27, 2022, Committee of the Whole minutes. Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Second again. All right. Can we have all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? And abstentions. All right, perfect. Item 5A, financial matters, April 2022 financial reports.
I'm going to hand this one to Caitlin to talk to us about the new financial reports, such as they are.
All right. Always the bearer of good news. So I apologize that there were no expenditure reports in your packet. Between building issues going on Friday and then just the way this reporting system is, the best I could do at that point was revenue. I will say I've worked through these reports a lot. I've tried them a couple different ways and they're not great. So what I left everybody copies of the expenditure reports at your seats. That's, again, this is me cleaning it up and basically making it match what the old expenditure reports looked like. So it's providing you the same information. And so unless there's something else you want to see, I can always tweak it, because this involved me having to go in and manipulate pretty much all of the data and do formulas and do all sorts of things. And that's just the way it is at this point, unless I can find something better, but right now I think that's what it is. So I'm happy I was at least able to get the same information that we've always had, because that's obviously helpful. But like I said, if there's something else you want to see or anything like that, please let me know and I would be happy to. Yeah, I can show.
Yeah.
So you have the pretty version, which is really not that great looking. This is the original version.
So the issue is that software just, you can't take out.
Yeah, you can't summarize.
At home.
Right, like so it breaks it down by department instead of giving it to you in by account name, basically. So that's where we're at. We at least have the information, which we did not have last month, so I still see that as progress. And like I said, I will continue to work on this and see if I can come up with something better. But in the meantime, I can at least get us the information we had. It's just not as nice.
And it takes a long time for her to collapse each of these.
Is it appropriate to ask a question about process or
Sure.
issue a comment on process or something like that? I'm pretty upset about this. Not so much because it changed software, but because apparently they haven't taught us how to use it, or the new software doesn't meet our needs. And the question is, does it not meet needs that we really need? Yes. I don't particularly want to see you spend hours every month giving us what you think we need if we don't need it.
Well, that was gonna be my question, like, is there a requirement, like, these are useful data points, I think, I mean, I don't think it's like a lot of stuff, but is there like a requirement to share with the board for the financial report? Are these the 5 things that need to be shown?
One of, in a word, yes.
Okay.
As part of your fiduciary responsibility, keeping track of the expenditures and what's going out and how we're doing on our budget is a huge part of your role. The question is just how that looks when it comes out to you. The biggest problem with the way those reports come out is there are all sorts of extraneous fields in the ones that come out of Munis right now. So technically it would be a little more detailed, but they're very difficult to read.
They are. I will say ironically that the reports I used to give you it was basically the last page of the report that just summarized everything, so it was easy to just print off the last page. Here, I actually have to take a detailed report and then summarize it, which seems very counterproductive, but I can't seem to find more of a surface level report. I'm not convinced that it's not maybe, somewhere else in there. I've been reaching out, I've been talking to one of their analysts, their software analysts at the village, who has been trying to help everybody, do what they need to do in the software when they can't figure it out. So I did send, copies of the reports that we used to use, and this was so far what they've given me as being comparable. I'm going to keep going.
And it may simply be that we give you the more complicated report.
I'm just wondering that, the village has made the decision that they've made, but I think we don't all want Caitlin to be spending hours of her time giving this to us, when at the end of the day, we need like a number, like we just need to know what we need. I don't know, it just feels like it's a lot of your time that's being wasted.
One of our
Exhausting.
what I think a lot of us have found to be the most useful portion of the expenditure report is the percentages used.
Yes.
That does not exist in that report the way it comes out.
I threw in some formulas.
So
and,
you did all this?
Yes.
Or you wrote a
She-
spreadsheet to do it?
Yeah, I made a spreadsheet for it.
I mean, it's definitely challenging because, the flip side is like a report that really doesn't help us get the picture. We're just kind of guessing.
Right.
What does the village council get?
I'm
Don't
not-
they have a fiduciary responsibility equal to ours?
I'm not sure because they do not actually post their full packets online. So I'm not sure what they actually see
Well,
on
I wanna do
a
what-
monthly basis.
I want to do what we are required to do.
Yeah.
And I also what we do, to a point at least, what our customers want us to do. But until or unless it gets pointed out that we're not doing enough, I wish we could cut back on your work. Maybe you could, you guys have good eyes, you can scan and point out aberrations to us.
Yeah.
And things that we should be concerned about.
Well-
And if too many months go by and we miss too many things because of that, we'll hold you responsible.
In theory, it should speed up as, if I have to keep doing this, as I do it more, it should speed up, and I can have business office assistant Scott help me as well, once I kind of write out how we do it, since I've been trying to create it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if once you got to a point where okay, well, it's not getting any better than this, and it has, and there's a manual process, there's gotta be a manual process regardless, can we hire someone to write it like a macro, and just be here, take stuff from this spreadsheet and turn it out, people do, this is a thing in the world.
Yeah.
You don't always want to do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like an exorbitant expense, you pay some $1,000 maybe, and at least then you could take the messy stuff and have it more easily turned into, clean stuff without human intervention.
Sure.
And then scan through it, just make sure that was weird, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm still,
I just can't believe the village hall is doing without this information. Maybe they never had it.
Well, and their budget is very different and much more complex. So I'm not sure how,
Okay,
who and how.
I've said enough. But just my view is I don't want to see a lot of work done if we don't need to do it.
Sure.
Or if there's a way to do it once and not do
Yeah,
it in
right.
the future. Okay.
Well, I will keep working at this, and, like we said, we know that the percentages are helpful, which is why I wanted to go through and include those, because I know that's, from a bird's eye view, that's the easiest way to see things on there, so I will keep working at it.
But that's a really good idea, Curtis, I hadn't thought about having somebody write macro for us to make it,
Right.
to take whatever direct they're giving us and make it into what we need.
Okay.
We'll keep working.
And on the overview part, we're 33% through the year as of these financial reports. Our expenditures are at 22.717%. And of course, revenue is lagging behind at under 2%. As you know, we'll start seeing those property tax allocations in June. So that's when we really do start to see things come back into line on the revenue side.
And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Capital equipment lines that are, like 65 and 87% respectively, are those because of the furniture?
Absolutely. That's primarily the tables.
Yeah.
It's all about the tables. And the nature of those lines is always that they get spent out in big chunks.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any other
Hello, Miss.
questions or comments?
I'm ready to water fountain with her.
Not, do we have a motion to approve the financial matters from April 2022?
Sure, I'll move to include financial measures for 2022.
Second.
Can we get a roll call?
Trustee Dorr?
Yes.
Trustee Humphries?
Yes.
Trustee Kinsey? Yes. President Trump?
Yes.
Well, that's me.
The order of the roll call.
I know, it's all thrown out.
We are on to agenda item 8A.
Actually, we're six.
May. Oh, sorry.
Six public
Yes.
comment.
All right, public comment on agenda items. Do you have any public comments?
Hi,
All right. And agenda item number 7, public comment and other library business. All right, now we're on to number 8, new business. 8A is Illinois non-resident library program participation.
As you know, this is an annual decision that the board has to make to participate in whether or not to sell non-resident fee cards. We have for the life of this law, and we generally use that the general mathematical formula because it's easy to figure out and administer. And this allows non-residents who live in school districts served by the Downers Grove 99 and 58. If you're a non-resident, you can buy your card from us. And those who live in an area served by multiple school districts can pick and choose, but only among the libraries that they are served by in their school districts. So the fee is raising through that formula to $292 per year. It's a $10 increase, and there was no increase last year, so this is kind of a catch-up year.
And unincorporated Downers Grove people are part of, don't they?
Yes, yes.
So they do
They
have to.
yes. This for us, this is primarily unincorporated Downers Grove.
Do most libraries use this formula in determining their non-resident fee?
It's kind of a mixed bag. It depends on your library and their philosophy, but you only get the choices that are stated in the law.
Yeah.
And the tax bill method actually requires the person to bring in a tax bill or a copy of their lease. And then you have to manually calculate their individual rate. It's just,
And how much of our revenue is accounted for?
a few $1,000s a year.
I'll move to approve participation in the Illinois non-resident library card program using the general method.
Excellent. I will second. Can we get a roll call?
Trustee Dorfman? Yes. Trustee Humphries?
Yes.
Trustee Kutia?
Yes.
President Gagnon?
Yes.
And because it's
I wasn't sure if it was like.
a fee,
Technically,
I would
yeah.
say roll call was a better choice.
On to item 8B, 2023 salary structure.
So this is the first step toward our budget process for the 2023 budget year. Working with HR Source, they had recommended a 5% increase to the salary structure. So that is a portion starting at the midpoint of the base and then growing mathematically out from there. As you can see, we do have a couple of lines in there that are grayed out because they're no longer used, being under minimum wage. So that is causing some compression of our salary schedule. So I know we warned you all that this was coming. So what we're looking at this year is doing this increase to the salary structure as a whole, giving our staff the 5% raise across the board, and then it's my intention to go through and use this year to look at some internal pay equity, because with the hiring recently and higher starting salaries, we've seen there are some folks who are a little low for the amount of time that they have been with the library and where they are in relation to newer employees in the same pay grade. So we're gonna basically play with some graphs and make sure that everyone's where they should be according to seniority, according to performance, and internal where they are in relation to others. But you can see I did include the 2022 salary structure for comparison. You can see what a big jump it is. And as you know, salaries is the thing that moves the needle on our budget process.
Well, just for starters, at least don't throw me out of the room. I'm a little surprised it's only 5%. Because the March inflation rate was 8.5%. Now it's going to taper. It already tapered a little bit in April. But that's what keeps me awake at night, frankly. Lay that out. I'll take your recommendations and the recommendations of our consultant for now. But
Well, in some
come
of this,
fall,
some of this, I believe, is also driven by libraries that are under the tax cap that would be unable to increase their overall tax levies more than 5% in the year, despite the fact that, because unfortunately the way the property tax extension and limitation law, PTEL, which is commonly known as the tax cap, is structured, it is a maximum of 5% no matter what CPI is doing, which has been an issue for a lot of our libraries. Now, we are very fortunate being in a home rule district, so it is up to you to set what the tax levy is. But part of this is based on past practice, trying to keep that levy amount as stable as possible. This is the flip side of it, is when you get into this kind of place where inflation is going up, you're also trying to balance that. What's that tax levy going to look like? And more than 60% of our expenditures budget is personnel. More than 70% if you count benefits. And that is typical.
Was there an increase in 2021?
Yes, that was 1.9?
Yes.
No.
1.7?
A total increase was 3%.
Yes.
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 Made up of, what was it, 1.9 cost of living, and then the rest was.
With merit, right. Right, so the salary structure moved the 1.9, and then we gave everybody that extra, right?
Well, it's always going to be a matter of balance. I mean, inflation hits all our customers negatively, including our staff. But we have to stay competitive for staff. And so, tax cap or no tax cap, I hope that our consultant will give us an opinion on what it takes to stay competitive, and that you guys give us your opinion on that.
And that is exactly why, and as I alluded to in the board packet about this, for our next budget cycle, we will have HR Source do the full salary structure review to make sure that we are.
And that's why they compare like the different size libraries.
And, yes. So that, yeah, as we did in 2019.
So we do that
Every few years.
every few years.
They recommend doing it every 4 to 5 years.
And this is probably a bad year to do that, because it's so out of everything. But, well,
Well, I think you doing the adjustments internally with the seasoned employees, based on kind of new hires, I think will help a lot as well.
But that's also a warning about what the preliminary budget will look like in June.
well, in some sense, it's kind of a shame that the tax cap kind of runs in our favor, actually, in terms of competition, because so much of our competition is under the tax cap.
Yes.
That doesn't make it any easier on people. So, okay. Looking forward to some fun times this fall. Late summer.
Any other comments on the salary structure? Not to be
Sure. I read it. Motion to approve 2023 salary structure as presented.
sorry. Can we get a roll call?
Trustee Doran, yes. Trustee Humphries,
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
President Pickering.
Yes. Item 8C, workroom renovation project.
What good news?
I will say that while I was hoping to be on the lower end of the scale, based on other libraries' construction projects over the last few months and bids that other libraries were getting on their projects, the larger the project, the smaller the percentage, but most were coming in 50% to 100% over their construction estimates. And so having a small project come in at 100% over our original thought is actually not surprising right now. there are so many factors, including labor shortages and supply chain issues are just, the cost of materials, the cost of everything is just going up.
Unpredictability.
Yes, very much so. So I put in what may be a very long-winded explanation in the board packet. The upshot of the whole thing is that annually we update our capital needs project list and the estimated budgets for that. I have given you a preview of that in this board packet that includes the renovation project. It also includes moving the carpeting that had in the original capital needs assessment been spread over 4 years, doing a quarter of the building in each of 4 years. After Ian and I had a conversation about that, it's our recommendation to actually take that project, move it to the end and split it over 2 fiscal years. The idea being that we would do it over the holidays because that is a good time for us to do all sorts of disruptive projects because we have fewer programs and generally lighter foot traffic and that sort of thing. So the idea of splitting it, and we would phase the project to do each level separately. So that was the idea there. And then putting in this renovation project along with a small amount for additional furniture, because as we originally budgeted for the project, we were looking at including the IT workroom in the full bid package. What we wound up doing was taking it out because it's going to be a furniture only kind of project, and so just adding in a little extra. So what I have budgeted here for the project for 2023 would be $660,000 total for the project. The estimate for the construction portion, as you can see from Jason from Shields McNutt, was $618. So that's just a little extra for furniture. As you know, we annually move transfer fund balance from the library fund into the library capital replacement fund. That's how it gets its money. We have seen our fund balance in the library fund growing considerably over the last few years because we have come in significantly under budget each year. Our operating reserve policy says we need about $500,000 in there. We were running at about, as of the last audit of our financials, we were running at 1.5 million as the fund balance in the library fund. So in walking back and looking at this more closely, one of the things that we had also put in place was at the end of the capital needs assessment projects in 2027 to have $1 million balance remain in the library capital replacement fund as kind of that starter for our next round of projects, whatever they may be, because long about 2026, we're gonna have to start a new capital needs assessment. So as of last year, the final balance in the library capital replacement fund was running at $1.3 million. So what we're doing here, I am suggesting that we transfer an additional $200,000 from the library fund balance into the library capital replacement fund. So a total transfer, our normal transfer is $350,000, so this would be $550,000 transferred from the library fund to the capital fund and to be able to continue this project. The ending fund balance for the library capital replacement fund in 2027 is reduced in our estimate from that 1.3 million. It would be just over $1 million is our current estimate.
Quick question, does that plan assumes a 4% inflation?
We'll see where we wind up.
Okay, there's no good remind people of that, so it may be a little underestimated in itself.
Well, and one of the
But
things.
we have a cushion, and that's the reason for the cushion.
Exactly. And one of the things that we had done is this was a flat amount. The 350,000 transfer has been our annual transfer since 2017. And at some point, we are probably going to need to look at making that an increasing amount, increasing by a few percent every year to keep up with the project.
Just another side comment, forgive me for making side comments, but I'd like to do that sooner rather than later. Personally, I'd like to not wait too long to make some of those adjustments.
And we generally get the audited financials from the village in June of every year, and that is usually when we make the transfer. So it gives us a much better sense once we have what that fund balance is for the end. Now, it's the end of, that's as of December 31st, 2021, but it does give us a better sense of where we are in that library fund overall, and it would be the perfect time. I'm hoping that it comes in a way that would make that easy to do this year, Dave. To start that percentage increase and maybe make it a 10% increase to the 350 for this year in addition, and with the idea of moving that forward, that next year 300 and whatever plus 5% or plus 4%.
Well, for the same reason that we don't raise the levy all the way for a tough year, so that we smooth the things out. I'd like to do the same thing, and also, I think people will be, tactfully put, a bit more understanding this year because of inflation. We're all hurting from inflation, but it's a little easier to understand the price of bread going up this year than it will next year.
Well, and I think it's important to note that our estimates for the new growth in the library's equalized assessed valuation, we were actually, as we normally are, conservative in our estimates, and the library's property tax rate actually fell again in this tax bill. Just a tiny bit. It had been 0.2030, and it is now 0.027. So your individual household actually saw their property tax bill for the library decrease very, very slightly if their value did not change.
That's very true, and it's a great thing to talk about, but on the other hand, people who get those tax bills in the mail tend to zero in on the bottom line rather than the levy. So, I think it, I already said it, I'll shut up. Well, what do we need to do tonight?
Do you want us to keep working on it or not? That's really the
Yes.
question. Do you want us to keep moving forward with planning for the project and budgeting for the project for 2023?
My answer is yes. It's small compared to the 70% total personnel costs in our budget. I get a sense that we'll probably, over the next couple of years, it's going to be difficult for us to maintain ground with inflation in that area. I think the other part of including keeping employees is working conditions. And so if we can find a way to do it, I would. And I think you've shown a way to do it.
I'm with Dave. I would like you to continue to work on it. I think that it's really, I've not even discussed with numbers as much as I'm thinking about our employees and some of it was like storage issues and just things that we need to make the situation better for people who are working in closet spaces and being able, this is where they're working and I want people to feel happy and to feel welcome, and I think that's going to change a lot of morale as well. And so I think that's really important if we can figure out a way to do it. It's important too.
I think the important thing too is to note that, you know, what the library offers in terms of services has drastically changed. Like
Right.
from, you know, 3D printing to, you know, all of the kids, you know, some of those things are gigantic because we checked them out and took them home. So, you know, from the storage perspective, it is based on the needs of our patrons, ultimately. And I think, you know, I see maybe taking on a bigger project, you know, these next few early years, because it does look like our capital expenses do taper off a little bit towards the end. So we do have kind of that extra time to reassess or make sure that we do end up at that $1 million mark come 2027. But I am also curious, like, is there anything that we can, you know, think about on this construction, you know, that maybe we can take a step back from without completely, you know, negating the whole point of it?
We value engineered the heck out of it already.
Yeah.
We did things like, well, what if we did it this way, because then the sink would stay in approximately the same spot, and the labor for moving the sink, because they have to actually jackhammer in the floor, you know, that would be significantly less. And oh, if we flip-flop it this way, then, you know, we don't have to do clear story windows, we can do a solid wall. And, you know, those are exactly the things that we've already just like tried to, every little bit that we could eat in there.
And yet, that sink location is part of working conditions. And as we saw in our tour last week, I mean, quite frankly, we've got some areas where people are like this, and we've got other areas where people are like this, and it isn't quite equity. There's no equity there. And I'm confident, and I urge you to keep your eyes open for little pockets of savings possibly. But I'm not sure we're going to find enough to make a big dent in that. I mean, the big dent would really be a sacrifice of working conditions. So far, I'm not willing.
And primarily, we will be reusing every stick of furniture and things of that nature to make sure that we're doing, you know, a desk is a desk, and as long as the configuration works in the new workroom, we'll just keep them.
I have a bit of a side question. When we do big construction projects like this, does like heat and steam take before and after pictures? Just looking for like the history of the library. Is that a thing that we keep?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a little art library archive that we keep. It's now electronic. It used to be, you know, an actual photo album, but we do try to make sure that we have the before and after pictures. And actually, especially now with our PR department, they take in-process pictures to post on social media and that sort of thing to talk about what's actually going on at the library. So that's kind of fun because it does give us, that little bit of history.
Well, plus, I mean, getting to see the back of house spaces that we don't, usually as patrons don't get to see, and as board members, it's like a special treat to go back, I mean, not, you all like whatever. It is kind of cool. I think it always, if there's a place you visit a lot, when you get to get a peek behind, of course, it's just interesting, and then also demonstrates how taxpayer money is getting spent, and, why it is what it is, because, people are, and they're like this now, and over a year doing this thing, so I think it's powerful to have those images and people to share them.
Yeah, the picture of the monitor station that backs up to the sump pit is always a very powerful image. When they go, that's somebody's desk.
Yeah.
And if it goes handy, we might have a little display at some point for some of us patrons. And because transparency works both ways. Did that kind of give you a feeling for it?
Yep. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. We like our staff. Our staff are amazing.
They are amazing.
And some of which we'll be talking about in a few.
That's perfect. Do not
I hope we were talking loud enough so they all heard.
have any unfinished business, correct? Okay, so we can move on to number 10, the library director's reports.
And I am going to hand it over to Children's Services Manager Allison Rennell to talk to us about summer reading and about what's going on in the kids' room in general.
Hi, how are you guys
Welcome to
today?
pull up a chair.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how you want to do it. You like kind of face or however that works.
Yeah.
I don't mind standing because you guys are adults. Usually the people I talk to are much smaller. Honestly, forgiving though, let me tell you. If you say something wrong. So, I'm here to talk to you guys about the summer reading program first, which actually started officially yesterday, May 22nd. Our theme this year is Off the Beaten Path. So hopefully you noticed when you came into the kids' room that we have gone all out on our theme this year with Off the Beaten Path. We have very much leaned into the camping aspect of it. I have to say that I have amazing staff. I did not do any of that. That is all my staff. They are so amazing. My decorations coordinator is Gracie Rule, and she organized everybody together, but I would say every single person in my department did something, made something. For me, I just said, sure, I'll buy that for you. Sure, I can help you. Wait, what if we hung it like this? That's me. I'm not the builder of the things. I just am so happy and so supportive, and they just did such a great job with everything. So we are off the beaten path, and I brought for you samples of all of our programs, including your own forms to start the adult program if you would like. So I'll start with that and pass those around to you. I also brought you a sample of the teen form, the readers form, which is our program for entering first grade through entering 8th grade. The teen form is actually for entering 7th through entering 12th. Middle schoolers get to choose whether they prefer to be in our program or the teen program, because middle school is very much a transitory time. Some of them very much are still down here, and some of them are like, see, I'm a teenager now and I need to go up there. So we let them pick. Usually they pick based on what prices they think are cooler too. So that's one around for you. This is the readers. And then of course we have our Read to Me program, which is for our little ones who are not yet reading alone. That's usually from birth through entering kindergarten. So the programs are pretty similar to how they've been the last couple of years. The Read to Me program and the Readers program all are 3-level programs. So it's the teen program. After each level you get a prize. For the readers and the Read to Me, the first prize is ice cream from Every Day to Sundays. It's a long-time partner with us. They give us an extreme discount on those free Sunday passes, and they are giving us small size ice creams now, so it's exciting. They used to do like a special mini one that was just for our tickets, and now they give us the actual, their baby size or whatever it is. But it's fantastic. And then everybody gets a second prize. For the little ones, it's a sticker strip. For the older ones, it is a little. This year, it is an ice cream sandwich cookie flashlight. So it's really leaning into our s'mores theme. And then their third prize is they get a book. that they get to select to keep to take home, as well as a lot of different coupons from around town. We have a ton of sponsors, like so many that I could not possibly list them all, but if they're not up on our SRC page already, they'll be up very soon, because I know Sandy, who's my person who contacts all my sponsors, just got that list to Cindy last week, so I think she was planning on getting it up pretty soon. So we are so lucky that everybody in Downers Grove loves to give the library stuff when we ask them, and it's not just people in Downers Grove. We work with partners in other local areas in DuPage County too, who are just willing to help the program as well. The teen program, like I said, also has 3 levels. They've changed it up a little bit this year. After each level, they get a choice of a book, plus some sort of Downers Grove Library branded swag, which is all listed on the form, and then they also get to enter the raffle. And they did that 3 times, and then they can keep reading after that for just more raffle tickets. I should mention little kids, they keep reading to get more prizes too. And then the adults is also a little bit different this year. There are 2 levels. For each level, same thing, similar to the teens, you get to pick out a book, plus a branded item, plus a raffle ticket, and if you keep reading beyond that, you can get more raffle tickets. You can track on paper, or you can track in Read Squared. We had huge growth with adults tracking online in Read Squared last year. Kids, it actually fell off a little bit because I think we started Read Squared in 2020 while we were still closed, mostly for the pandemic. And then once they got back on paper, the Downers Grove community, depending on the age of the kids, we get a lot of moms of younger kids who like to do it online. Older kids, they can do it themselves if you just hand them the paper packet. So we get a lot of fostering independence in the tracking of reading. So a lot of people still use paper forms, but we are very excited to be able to continue to offer both. And then we are partnering with District 58's Math Club again. So for students who are in District 58, their PTA does math program. We do the summer program, and they encourage their students to do our summer program. They encourage their students to do the PTA's math program, and then the math program pickups are here at the library. So they're going back to their old way of picking up, which is like they spend 2 days once a month in the library in our meeting rooms, just giving out their prizes and stuff like that. We visited all of our elementary schools in the area, all the District 58 elementary schools. We also visited St. Joe's, St. Mary's, and District DG Christian, and then we dropped off forms at Avery Cooley. This is all we call everybody every year, and just depending on the school what they want is what we do. So I believe the Avery Cooley librarian is going to have them set up in her library to give out.
Yes, they're all set up, I saw them yesterday.
They're awesome, great, I thought so. They usually gets this right on it, but I wasn't sure whether or not she had it up yet or not.
It's all there.
It's great. So we are so excited. So that lots and lots of kids already ready and already have their prizes. We're finishing up our school visits this week, actually. And then PR is doing another scavenger hunt this year, similar to the one they did last year, is partnering with downtown businesses. This year they have to find ingredients to make a s'more, 7 s'more ingredients around town. But there's several businesses participating, so you have to make sure you find your right ingredients. And then you come back and drop your form off at the library. And adults and kids can win. They get entered in a raffle. There are 5 kid prizes, which are $10 downtown dollar gift cards plus book bundles of kids' books that they're giving away, and 3 adult prizes, which are $50 downtown dollar gift cards. So we're really excited. It was super popular last year. Last year they had over 500 participants, and so we're really excited and hoping that it's going to be as popular this year too, and I definitely think it will be. The people in Downers Grove love scavenger hunts. It's been so successful for us, and I know the businesses really enjoy partnering with us on that as well. I think that is everything I have about summer reading. It goes until August 7th. Prize pickup starts June 6th. I encourage all of you to participate and have your families participate. It's so much fun, and as you can see, we are super into it this year. We're going all out on the camping theme, so if you have not had a chance to walk around the entire room, please take a look, because it's very, very cool. Do any of you guys have questions about summer reading before I go into my department stuff?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Very creative group.
Yes, they are amazing. I was amazed when I walked in this morning, because I only saw some of it before I left on Friday, and I was just like, they transformed the whole place. It's so cool. But yeah, so then Julie asked me to talk to you guys about what we've been up to in the kids' room, which is a lot of stuff, and so I will try not to go on too long, but feel free to ask me questions. I wanted to start and talk a little bit about some of the staffing changes that we've had, particularly over the last few months. I was able to, in the beginning of the year, with the support of Julie, hire an assistant manager to the kids' room department, which is something that I personally have always wanted for a long time for me, but then also we took care of some other staffing needs first, because I wanted my other staff to make sure they have support, and we got to the point where I'm like, oh, now I can get an assistant manager to help me with some of the things. And so we were able to promote somebody internally, Tracy Skosic, which is our longtime program coordinator. She's actually been at the library for about 12 years, and she's been our program coordinator for, let's say, 8 or 9 of those years. It was predated me. I'm going on my 7th year here. And she is just a phenomenal staff member who would be very, very annoyed that I'm praising her so much right now. So, because she's very modest, but she has just always been kind of like my right-hand person for a long time. So she was definitely right away someone we wanted to move into this position. She was the person whenever I went on my maternity leaves who was my interim and that type of stuff. And she's just such an organized person. She makes things happen, and I'm so glad to have her, bring her on to kind of help with a lot of those day-to-day operations, which kind of will free up some of my time to work on some of the bigger projects that I have in mind, which I will mention a few once I get a little bit farther on. And then replacing her in the program coordinator position, we just hired Amanda Blau, and she actually started last Monday. Amanda is actually a Downers Grove resident. She actually worked here about a decade and a half ago previously, and then she moved on to a different library. She worked at Naperville for about 12 years part-time, and then she came back. And so we are so glad to have her started too, because as of next week, we are returning completely to sort of pre-pandemic programming styles. So that means that the majority of our programming will be back in this room. We are no longer going to be doing registration for most story times. We're going to bring back drop-in programming, and we really have put our summer schedule similar to the levels that we were back at in 2018, 2019. Very, very close, if not all the way there, which we are super excited about. The patrons are super excited about. Since we started easing some of our COVID restrictions back in March, we have seen our attendance just continue to grow, and more people are coming back to the library. So we are so glad that we're going to be able to provide all that different programming this summer. We have a lot of really neat things planned. We still do have some registered programs, typically our more specialized art programming, science programming, any of our STEAM or STEM programming tends to be smaller groups because of, control the room size, but something that people really wanted is to get to relax registration on story time, so we're very excited to start doing that soon as well. And in case you haven't noticed, the kids' room play area has gone under a lot of changes. I know everybody saw the light bright coming in, which of course has been just so amazing. The kids just love it so much, and Ian built that whole thing himself. He came to me with that idea in fall of 2019, winter of 2019. So it was literally several years in the making because we had to get through the pandemic and all that type of stuff. And so I cannot tell you how many patrons tell us that they think it is just as good or better than the one that is at the DuPage Children's Museum. Plus, you don't have to wait in line for like 20 minutes to use this one usually. So we have gotten so much positive feedback about that wall. Additionally, we reopened the Play Cafe. It officially opened yesterday, but it actually opened Friday. We were like, oh, let's just do it. If you have a chance to step in there at some point, Ian also completely redid the Play Cafe. If you remember what it was like previous to his renovation, it used to be yellow. It looked like a wheel of cheese. It had a big hole right in the middle that kids love to climb up into and jump out of. It no longer has that. It still has the little door. It now has a plexi window, which is so nice because we can still see into the Play Cafe, but they can't climb into it anymore. We also closed up one of the holes up top, which was where kids would usually just throw things, and then they'd land there, and then Ian would have to get the ladder to get them down for us. So it's really just so much more functional for us. We also removed the whisper tubes, which were on the wall. We called them the screen tubes. They weren't whisper tubes. They were much too close together. They're fun for parks, not so much for the library. So those are gone, and we're so expensive. We put so much of the play food stuff in them. So we are so glad that those are gone as well. Instead, we have new poster boards in there, and then Grace, our graphic designer, designed us a menu board and a chalkboard that is really exciting. They're all text-based. One of the things that Julie and I talked about a lot about with this little redo of it is I wanted to really get a lot more text into our play area, because even though the age of the children playing in that area are not reading yet, it's really important for children who are learning how to read to be in a language and text-rich environment. And so adding to the aspects of our cafe, the words they would see if they'd be in a real cafe, is just really important for the play environment. So excited about that. So definitely check that out. Additionally, I'm super excited to announce that we are going to be getting a new wall to replace our Velcro wall, which is, if you are out here, we have the light bright, we have the silly mirror, and then we have the Velcro wall. The Velcro wall, it had these Velcro blocks and these Velcro ramps on it, which were fun, but they get really gross really fast. So I was replacing those every 2 to 3 years, and they are expensive to replace that awesome. So I put in a request to the Library Foundation, who was amazing, to replace a Velcro wall with 2 nature-themed learning centers. So one of them is called a Discovery Box, and it has removable planting paddles and kind of has a foam on top that they can plant these paddles where they're planting a scene. So one of the sets of paddles is seedlings, like the process of a plant growing from seed into a tree, and then one of them is like planting vegetables and comes with a little watering can. So it's great for imaginative play. The other one is called the Learning Desk, and it comes with removable panels that are really meant for parent-child interactions, and you can use a little magnifying glass and look at the different bugs and animals and stuff on the different changeable tablet scenes. So the one that we picked is kind of about the life cycle of butterflies, which is great because the monarch garden is right outside the window next to where this learning desk is going to be. And then some frogs and bees. So it's all local nature, and I'm so excited that they're going to fund it. And I just started the process of getting that ordered. It's a several-week lead time, but I'm super excited for it. So lots of great updates to our play area as well. We refreshed the majority of our toys since the pandemic, so all of that is new. The baby play area is reopened. It's been reopened for a little while back there too, and we are just so excited about that. So I have more to talk about. I have a few more minutes. Okay. I'm going to go through this part really fast. So in your next board packet, I'm actually going to include in my report a little roundup of all the outreach we did during the 2021-2022 school year, because we did a ton of outreach. Erin Linsenmeyer, my outreach coordinator, who talks to everybody about this stuff, she set us up. Even though this was coming out of the pandemic, we still visited 7 preschools and daycares in Downers Grove, and we already have 2 new locations that we're going to be visiting this summer. And St. Joe's and St. Mary's just reached out to us to set up for the fall. So we are kind of getting back to where we used to be in preschools. We visited several schools in 58. We visited Avery Cooley a couple times. DG Christian comes here. They have a 2nd grade class that comes here almost every Wednesday to check out books and to get a story time from us. We did reading nights, math nights, geography nights. We did all sorts of stuff like that. We did a lot of really unique stuff this year, which is part of the things that we'll lay out a little bit more in this report that I'm going to give you. But we did some adult presentations this year. We did, Erin and I did a training for Emmanuel Lutheran's preschool about using books during preschool classes and giving them different ideas, things like that. Erin assisted several of the teacher librarians in 58 with leading and maintaining their collections. They had new teacher librarians, and a couple of their teacher librarians were teachers who then became librarians. They didn't have some of the same experiences that they would have had they looked like in their previous previous library or previous school library. So she was helping them maintain collections and weeding, which, as we know, as a public library, is a very important thing to do. And she was throwing things away from the type of thing that I would maybe have seen at that school when I was there in elementary school, or old, that was old when I was there. So, that's been super helpful, helping them refresh those collections. And then we also do a ton of book pulls for the teacher librarians for the majority of the 58 schools and for Avery Coonley. St. Joe's and St. Mary's have not used us yet, but they come to us and they say, I have a teacher who's doing a project on germs. Get me 20 books about germs for second graders. And we do it. We do it every time, and we've done that a bunch this year. So she's putting together a little chart about our numbers on that too. Because outreach for us is a lot more than just going to places. So, and we had a whole, we just did so much. So I'll let you go back into that. And then the other big project we've been working on is our diversity audits. To tell you a little bit about children's literature and diversity, it's really only in the last, so it's 2022 now. In 2014 is when Ellen O and Melinda Lowe first came up with, the tagline, "We need diverse books," and that is less than a decade ago. And that's really when people starting to pay attention to the fact that many, many children's books that were coming out were about characters who were white, or characters who had Christian backgrounds, or characters from middle-class situations, and that's what, so much that the Cooperative Children's Book Center in Madison did a study in 2015 that said that 73.3% of books published that year were about children who were white. They only look at race, but and that every other group was a lot less than that. In fact, the next highest book group, 12.5%, were books about animals and trucks. That was the next highest. And then there were 7.6% of the books published that year were about African or African American characters. 3.3% were Asian American, Pacific Islander background, or 2.6% Latinx, and about 0.9%. And so this was 2015. So that's the year after everybody started talking about this. And it has gotten better. It has gotten better as publishers have been paying attention, as authors have been paying attention, as librarians have been paying attention and trying to, advocate for it. But it is still not super great. The 2021 numbers are a little bit off because of the pandemic, so I don't have every single thing. I don't know how many books were about trucks, but it did increase to 13.7% about African or African American characters, 1.9% about Native or Indigenous characters, 10.8% about AAPI characters, 7.3% about Latinx characters. That's as far as I can go because they haven't put out their full report as that. But looking at all this, we decided we wanted to do a couple things. First of all, we did a diversity audit of our J fiction, and we actually just finished it. I have some general numbers. We looked at more than just race. We looked at characters from LGBTQIA plus characters. We looked at characters with neurodiversity and physical diversity, and we also looked at English as a second language in a variety of different areas. But 78.9% of our collection was still of books just about white kids, which honestly was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and here's why. The oldest books we have in that collection are from 1860, the Louise and Maddie Alcott books, and we have been buying more and more in the last several years, trying to focus on increasing our diverse reads. And so our collection is, we only did a sample of the collection, but a statistically significant sample. 5% of the books in our sample were about African or African Americans, 2.2% Latinx, 3% AAPI, 0.5% Native or Indigenous, 0.6% LGBTQIA, 1.2% neurodiverse, 1.2% physical diverse. So obviously we can do a lot more, but I was expecting it, considering the age of our collection is so much older and they only really started paying attention to diverse books less than a decade ago, to be even worse than that. So what we're doing with this information now is we're going to apply it to our ordering to make sure that we are continuing to order more and more books about diverse populations. But the bigger project that we've already started working on is making sure that we, as librarians, are recommending diverse books, because that's where I think we can have our biggest impact. We have a collection of 18,700 J-fiction books. So we can buy only books about diverse characters all year next year, and we still would only move the needle a little bit in our very wide collection. So we want to make sure that the books that we're putting on display, the books that we are representing in our genre list, the books that we are representing in our summer bibs, that those include those books, so they don't just get lost in that sea of books that are a lot older and a lot whiter. So we did a genre audit of all of our summer bibliographies from the last 5 years. We did an audit of all of our genre lists, which are an internal tool that we as staff use. And then we are going to take that data and then build in our percentages to make sure that when a kid comes and asks us for a 3rd grade mystery, we are not just giving them a list of books of characters who all look the same. We want to be able to give them the choice to see children from all different backgrounds in their mystery books and then have them choose what they want to read. It's so important for children of all backgrounds to read diverse books. We talk a lot about mirrors and windows in children's lit. Children need to have books about them. Children have to read books about characters that look like them, that come from the same backgrounds as them, because that's how they help understand their lives. And then children also need windows to see into what people's other children's lives are like. Books are one of the safest and greatest ways for kids to experience something different than their regular world. It's a great way to process and a great way to learn. So that's just some of what we are working on, and I know I talked longer than I think I was supposed to, but does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry, I had more, but I got excited when I was writing this earlier. So, any questions for me about that or anything?
That was all fantastic information. I feel so smart now. That's the best insight I've ever gotten.
Thank you. If you ever want to talk to me about any of those numbers, and once my J-fiction audit, I'm still kind of putting together graphs and charts and stuff, but I will have that if you want to see it eventually.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear about the numbers from the audit. I was wondering how that was going.
Yes,
I am happy that it's 70 whatever percent, because I was expecting it to be
right? 95.
That was our best. I know it was our best in our meeting. That would be 95.
No, it's only 78%, and now that does not necessarily mean white. That could mean animals or trucks. But yes, and like I said, we did not just include race. We did include a couple of different areas too, because we wanted to make sure that we looked at all.
Well, DEI doesn't just mean race.
Exactly. So, and then our next project is going to be our picture books, which is going to be a little bit different. My goal is to actually look at every book in our picture book collection. You have to open a picture book to see what's going on in them. So I'm going to try to do 2 things: audit them, and then I am going to work on, I get Amanda training to Tracy, and a rubric for looking for inappropriate imagery, I guess is the best way to say. We have definitely found things.
Scary ones, some of those old Richard scary ones. I was like, wow.
Yes, there's stuff in there that does not have to be in there. And so we are going to make sure that we are going to take a look at that type of stuff as well. So that's our next project is the picture book collection, and then also working through our displays and our genre lists, and then setting some targets to making sure that we do that. And really, for a lot of my staff, it's just about intentionality. They know a lot of these great books with diverse characters coming out, but making sure that we think, oh, I should grab this one and this one and this one, or when I'm pulling my display, I'm not just looking blindly and pulling everything, because if you're just looking blindly and pulling everything, 78% of the books are non-diverse books, so you're just going to pull. What statistically, what are you going to pull out? You're not going to. So just being more intentional about it and kind of doing some everyday EDI work to make sure that we are representing all members of our community. So I'm very excited. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you for having me talk, and sorry I talked
Your
more
hair is
than
awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Are all of your staff involved with the audit?
They are. So my staff for the J-fiction, we printed out the list, and everybody was assigned lists, so everybody had to do parts with that. And then specific staff are in charge of auditing specific things. So a couple of my assistants audited the genre list, a couple of them did the summer bibs. And I forgot, we also audited our story collection. These are the books that we keep in the back that we use in story time. And those numbers were not great, but we discarded a lot, and that's going to be one of Amanda's first projects, is finding books to use in story time that have different types of children in them. And we do have some, still a lot of animal and truck books, but if you're going to pick a book, an everyday kid book about just a family doing something, making sure there's a couple different options and making sure that they're more reflective of who we're seeing in our story times too. So we're excited about that.
Have your staff, going through all this work, have they had a chance to reflect on what they're finding and interesting things that they're learning?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it. We try to touch base every couple of sessions about it. They're always surprised at what they find. They're surprised at a lot of, one of the things we have noticed is we do have some books, typically a lot of times they're older books, that appear to be diverse at first, but aren't actually, or they're written by a white author who is not able to speak on that background. And there are some times where there are better research materials and things like that, but then there's some stuff that we're like, oh no, this does not fall under diversity. Or there'll be things that get inadvertently marked, like as like a book about a Native American, but it's not actually a book about a Native American. It's just a kid dressed up like a Native American in a play, so stuff like that. So things like that where we are looking at how things are cataloged as well. And we also have been doing a lot of other webinars and professional development. We did one back in February about using picture books with diverse characters in story time and how to get comfortable. The majority of my staff are white, they are white women, and we had a long conversation about, after watching this, about how to feel comfortable reading a book that is about and by an author who does not share the same background as us, and how it's important to do that and to not make assumptions about the book, to become culturally competent, to doing some research before you're reading the book so that you understand what's happening in it, because we are going to see children of different backgrounds, and so it's important for us to read those books and to move past any discomfort we might have for the good of the population that we're doing. So we've had a lot of conversations about that too. And I would say I'm very lucky that my staff are all very much on board with this process. And they are very interested, and we have a lot of really thoughtful conversations about what we can do. So.
Thank you, Allison. And next month, Lizzie Matkowski, our Adults and Teen Services Manager, will be coming to talk about what's going on in ATS. And so you'll be hearing a lot more about what they're doing upstairs, which is very similar and yet different.
Yes.
So get interesting stuff all around, and they are doing such amazing work. I'm just so proud of our staff and the hard work that they're putting in to really make sure that, when we say we have an equity strategic plan, we've actually started the work. Mm-hmm. And the staff has been amazing at just getting right in there.
Lizzie and I work closely on the auditing stuff too, trying to make sure that what we're doing down here matches kind of what we're doing up there, so we're all one library.
And then you'll be hearing yet more. Eventually we'll have our new Access Services Manager who starts on Tuesday, May 31st. Soon enough for Jen. When we start talking about a lot of this diversity audit, these things, there's a lot of impact to the way we catalog books and being able to capture the information from the diversity audits to make sure that we can find those books in the collection. The search is so important. So having the managers come in one at a time to talk to you about what's going on in the library, I think will be very instructive in seeing how that all plays out. Just a couple other points I wanted to hit. Our anti-hate statement went out at the end of last week. Thank you all for approving that. We got some questions about other incidents and when or why statements might come out for those. So we were very much focused on pointing people to the framework for releasing anti-hate statements. So we really did push that out to people to hopefully answer those questions effectively. We got a lot less on the negativity on this one, so that was interesting. And several of the comments were about why didn't you issue a statement about this or that, rather than straight out you shouldn't be doing this. So that it was good to engage in that dialogue, especially around.
May I have your attention, please?
Oh,
The library will be
sorry.
closing in 15 minutes. Please bring the items you wish to check out to the self-checks or the first floor service desk at this time. Again, the library will be closing in 15 minutes. Thank you.
And I wanted to highlight the foundation's donation of the play wall things. They also approved continuing to pay a stipend for the social work intern. Emily was with us last semester. She is technically done with her internship through Aurora University. However, she asked if we would be interested in having her stay for the summer because we didn't get an internship student for the summer. So the foundation agreed to continue with Emily through the summer. So she will be here 3 days a week. So we're very, very happy to be filling that gap. And then we have 2 that will be starting in the fall that I'm sure Lizzie will be talking about when she comes to visit us next month. And then I just wanted to highlight that we have been having that uptick in patron incidents has continued. We've had a number of incidents. We've had the police here quite a bit, unfortunately, and there have been threats made against the library as a whole, against a specific staff member, and we are working with the DGPD to address that situation, and they're doing some increased rounds and just keeping an eye on things for us, so it's concerning. That was all I had.
Item number 11, trustee comments and requests for information.
I have to ask, who is the staff member who was extremely popular, so I'm
I got tell the story.
Yes,
It's not
not me.
me, so I have to talk.
It is Business Office Assistant Scott Anderson.
Okay.
Oh,
It is the Fall Out Boy song, Sugar We're Going Down, believe it or not.
Really?
Most popular, yes,
Okay.
yes. His wife used to sell merchandise for the band.
Hmm.
And Pete Wentz, the bassist, right?
Yep.
I loved her a lot. And when Scott and his now wife got together, Pete was not so happy. And wrote a song about it and sent them an advance copy before the CD even went out, and that was the song. So it is about him and his wife and how Pete wishes he was Scott that time, I guess. To put it mildly. And so it's pretty fantastic. So it's not fantastic, but I just, when he told me this 2 years ago, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. So it took him a very long time to get over hearing the song, because you still hear it. He heard it getting his haircut like a month ago, and he's got to be kidding. So it is unfortunately still everywhere, but they can now kind of laugh and roll their eyes about it at this point, but it took a while to get there.
But it's just what a fun way to get to know each other.
Yeah.
With an extreme example.
Yes, but yeah, that was,
That fun facts about the staff was just an incredibly, it was very entertaining.
hope we see some more.
Yeah. And all sorts of conversation starters for talking to your fellow staff members now.
Talking a lot, but I've got to react, not react, but comment and applaud a lot of what you were talking about. It's, I couldn't help but there are a couple things jumped out at me. One is the weeding of the elementary school libraries. Kevin Russell is the superintendent of schools. Has been around Downers Grove off and on a long time, and he often says that most of the schools were built before he was here way back then and haven't made any changes significantly because he's trying to understand that we need to upgrade things and we need to. And he also at one point mentioned he was in a school, elementary school library and seeing books that were there when he was a kid. So make sure he knows what you're doing. This one other thing, I was at a music conference last week with about 2,000 of my closest friends in Kansas City. Music business, although half the people there were musicians and the other half were people who were looking to hire musicians, agents and managers and venues and things like that. So it was music 24 hours a day. So if I look a little sleepy, that's part of the reason. But one of the things that I was both pleased, a little startled, and pleased to see was a workshop at that, because there were a lot of educational workshops at the convention too. One of them was on diversity auditing within the music business. Just bring your head around that one a little bit. And I was able to say, my public library is doing that. And they said, oh, really, your library? So, but another thing that came out was within a similar session was discussion of pronouns and so forth. And so often the LGBTQIA plus emphasizes parts of that but not others, and the T is the one that needs more attention than just about anything, and especially with children, because that's our hope for the future in that area. And the other thing is that we might consider adding a 2 to that list too, because LGBTQ2IA plus, because that 2 stands for Two-Spirit, which is the indigenous inclusion. But in any case, always have the plus at the end. So, thank you.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, well then I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting and